Hey guys, and welcome to a long-awaited video that people have been asking me about. This is going to be the Season 4 rebuild of my Sentry, my Electric Sentry build. There is a lot of things I want to go through about this, and I'm gonna talk about the Fan Blade Sentry thing. It's a lot. It's as with all of my build guides, it's gonna be a lot of stuff. But let's get through this thing and get you guys on your way. Okay, before we get into the actual build, let's talk quickly about the pros and cons of this build. And with the Season 4 update, Sentry's got a lot of support. Unfortunately, a lot of it is very high-end and not really accessible. But we're going to talk about it anyway. Okay, so the pros... it's basically immune to reflect damage because you can just summon more sentries. You throw them out there, if they die, who cares? I've never had a problem up until about monster level 150. I can move fairly well. I don't have any real issues. Above that, I definitely start to run into trouble, and I think it would be hard to push this thing all the way up to 160. I'll say that up front. I know that's... I'm in the pros section, but I will say that about the build, that without really being optimized, I don't think it's ever going to be exceptionally high-end. Now, a lot of people will see sentries in the the damage rankings and go, oh my god, sentries are so strong, but they're really only strong in the damage test. They're not really good in combat. And it has to do a lot with how they build their builds, but we're not going to really get into that. We're getting into this build, which is the electric one, not the Fan Blade Sentry. So, pros, immune to reflect. Great stuff. It does quite fast mapping if you're doing 144 and under, at least with what I've got currently. Once you start to get into curse monsters at 145, it does slow down drastically, I found. But 144 and under, you can absolutely tear through maps with this. And I feel really comfortable playing it at again, 144 and under, no problem. Now, my build is nowhere near optimized. I'm going to show you what an optimized one would look like, but mine isn't very optimized, and it's missing a lot of the things to make it really, really shine. But up to 144, you'll have no issues, in my opinion. The way the thing works as a pro, you can just roll right through a group, drop a sentry, and keep running. It'll kill the group behind you. It'll kill the group in front of you. It's very smooth in terms of mapping. Okay, cons. You can only have 5 sentries unless you get the Aquilus Flutter's unique Quiver, which is, as far as I know, a hardcore exclusive. So it is going to be hard to get access to one of those. And you would want it in your Lacrima. But if you're forced to use it, then you'd have to put your attack enhance thing, you'll see what I'm talking about when I get there, in your Lacrima. Either way, getting a Lacrima that is optimized for this thing is going to be very hard because a lot of people want the two-handed weapon in their legendary, or sorry, not legendary, unique two-handed weapon in their Lacrima, which means almost all the ones that are out there are going to be very expensive. So you're trying to get a legendary Lacrima with a two-handed unique on it is going to be a lot of trouble. You might get lucky. I don't use the auction house though, but all my grinding, I have not got one that works yet. It is a squishy build at the higher level. So again, when I'm pushing 150 or so, you can die very, very quickly, and there's not a lot of room for more support for the character itself, because pretty much the entire Zodiac is going to be focused on your sentries, and almost all of your gear is going to be focused on the sentries, not leaving a lot of room for you. With that said, again, if you play cautiously, I had no trouble around 150 or so. I haven't really pushed it hard because I feel like I need quite a bit of stuff to make it good, and I'm busy working on 5 other builds and videos and stuff. It has a small issue dealing with doors and stairs. If you're doing a lot of maps that involve stairs or doors, it can have trouble where it doesn't hit the enemies correctly, which can be an issue. It has the one problem they still have not found a way to fix, where you can't see the boss's health bar if you're fighting like an elite, or not. Sorry, not well. Yeah, elites too. If you're fighting a map boss or a what's it called, descent raid or whatever, you can't see the boss's health bar at the top. You only see your sentry stuff, which can be problematic when you're trying to wait for certain percentages to do certain mechanics. So that could be a real problem. One of the other major problems with sentries in general is you can't see their proper stats. There's no way to access seeing their crit rates correctly. You were so cute. What are you doing over there? Sneezing your face off? Trying to work here. So yeah, you can't see their dodge rates, you can't see their resists or anything. So that's problematic. With that said, it is a really fun build, and if you are not planning on pushing ultra hard, it is a completely viable build. Again, up to 150, I have no trouble. It's low investment cost to start. And it plays well through the story. I had a lot of fun with it. I think that's it for the pros and cons. Let's get into this. Okay, the Runeboard. Now, my version of this build is nowhere near optimized as far as I'm concerned. There's a lot of room for improvement, and there's some alternate options that I want to work with. But again, I've got 15 projects on the go, and this is sort of taking a back burner. The biggest thing that I want to try to fit in is a copy of Shockwave Sentry. And I want to use Shockwave Sentry against bosses because it does significantly more damage at the same gear level and everything. I just did a test. I do about hold on. I do about 1.2 billion with the lightning sentries or electric sentries, and against a single target boss, I did something like 3 billion with Shockwave. Now, with that said, I'm not saying Shockwave is better. Shockwave is awful. It's terrible in my opinion, but against bosses, it absolutely shreds in comparison to the lightning. So I plan to, if I was going to push this really hard, use a copy of Shockwave Sentry in here somewhere and replace element damage amplification with melee damage amplification, replace multi-shot with something, I don't know what, and that would be the big change, and I would have that as a secondary option for elites and for big stuff. The problem currently is that I don't have a spot on my bar for it. Now, you could use Tenacious Regen as an on-hit effect, but I don't really feel like it's a good on-hit effect because it'll go off when you don't want it to. But that's the only way I could see that I could possibly fit Shockwave in. For the moment, anyway. I may end up doing that. I'm not sure. But that's the big change that I would make if I could find a way to pull it off. Other than that, there has not been a huge amount of changes since my original video, I don't think. But we're going to get into this thing and break it down and see what we can see. Okay. The main skill, obviously, is going to be Electric Sentry. And I've made quite a few changes on here since my original video, and they will obviously show. So we're going to be using Mana Storm, okay, with the Source Awakening to get more damage. Obviously, good stuff. Element Damage Amplification with Origin, again, to get more damage. I'm not sure that this awakening is the best anymore because I've made so many changes, but for the moment, that is what I'm using. Improved technique. Now, I'm not actually sure how effective this is, but there's not a lot of really good damage links for sentries. So this will give you +4 levels and 320% sentry damage, which is, I mean, pretty good. There's no amp on it, which is, you know, an issue, but I do feel like the 4 levels makes up for it. I'm using close range shot. Now, we're getting close range shot in the Zodiac as well, but I feel like this is a solid thing. I've done some damage tests, and it seems to do well. Precise Sentry for critical. This is pretty much required. I can't find a way to get my crit rate where I want without this, so it's sort of locked in. The one big thing you will see here, if you have watched the previous video, is I don't have Sentry install speed in here anymore. Once you get established, Sentry, the quick Sentry install is really, really not necessary. I can barely tell the difference between the two when I play without it. So I wouldn't worry about getting it. It's the only way you can get it is from Fugitive's Farmland, which is obviously a hassle to get copies of, and then you have to have the chance to get it. So replacing it with any of the other damage things is definitely going to be your best bet. I'm using multi-shot. If you are going to be fighting single target with this, chain is a better choice, or just another damage link. If you're trying to do really crazy, super fast clearing, dropping something like close range shot or improved technique and using both multi-shot and chain is really, really good for clearing. It's super, super good for clearing, but it's not particularly great overall. There are other options you can move around in here, but this is sort of what I found to be the best at the moment. You will also notice a distinct lack of multi-sentry, and I found a way to get my max count and my sentry count, so simultaneous count, to 5 without having to use it. It is better, but only if you can get the legendary Lacrima with a two-handed unique weapon. Otherwise, you lose too much from the weapon to really, really make it effective. And early on, I definitely recommend just using multi-sentry until you get yourself going. The alternate I was talking about is Shockwave Sentry. Again, I'm not sure if I'm going to fit this in here somewhere. I have the space to do so, I just don't know if I'm going to do it. Shockwave Sentry is really strong against single target. I definitely recommend fitting it in. I think, again, the only way I could do it would be to put an on-hit effect on Tenacious Regen, which I may or may not do. I would drop the decreased duration if I was going to do that and have it more as a passive regen than an active, like, big heal. But that is very strong against single target. I do recommend it. You would have to switch some of the things, like I had said previously. You can't use element damage amp, and multi-shot will be effectively useless because it's already got so many projectiles. Close range is still going to do really well. Precise, Mana Stormer are all still going to do really well. But that's that. Okay, let's move on to the next section. Okay, toggles. Now, in the toggles here, I haven't done a ton of experimenting, but there is some good stuff here. So Seal of Striking seems to be the best option. I haven't done a ton of testing, but Seal of Striking is good. You should go for it. I have it connected to Improved Technique for the extra levels, and Enhanced Seal Range so that it is both getting more effect and has a farther range so that my sentries can stay inside of its effect farther. I'm using Seal of Dodge as my defensive toggle. I don't honestly know what's going to be the best here. The armor on the build currently is very low. Even with our Show to Provocation up, we definitely have an armor issue. So I probably should switch this to Seal of Defense and get more armor. But for the moment, this is what I'm going with. Even with this, we are not at max dodge at the higher levels. So I do need to work on the gear, obviously, quite a bit. But that's, I'm not sure if it's either of those two. Our dampening is also very low in all regards. So Seal of Elemental Domain or Seal of Physical Domain could be very good here as well. Probably more likely Elemental, as we don't really get hit physically too much since we're moving around a lot. But that's that. All these obviously are going to be connected to dampen resource cost to keep our cost down. Sentry Expert is very good. We keep it on the attack one for the extra attack speed and the damage. You can switch it to the defensive one. I don't even know what the defensive one does right now, but you can definitely do that. The Enchanted Sentry channel is one of our major offense boosts, but we only ever really use it when we're fighting bosses. While it is up because of the Origin Awakening, we are taking less damage, not more, which again is good because we're only going to be using it against big targets, so those targets are going to be doing a lot of damage to us because we're going to be locked down. Along with it, we have Channeling Enhancement, so that we can get damage taken dampening while channeling. It doesn't help us do more damage, but it does help us take less damage. I have Enchanted Sentry linked to spell activation while channeling and hooked to Illusion Hook. Now, Illusion Hook with the Source Awakening will give the pain effect and make things take more damage. The notable thing is you have to manually aim your character while you are channeling. I'm not sure you could do this with a keyboard. Maybe you can still, but with a controller, you're holding down the channel button and you have to aim the Illusion Hook manually. It won't automatically target things, but this will increase damage quite a bit against single target heavy stuff. We also have Unite Crowd with Enrage, so that we can get the extra move speed. You can toggle it to the defensive thing if you're fighting something big, because you're not going to be moving around much. This is a pretty solid setup. I have not done a ton of optimization with this. Again, I just have tons of projects on the go. But this is serving me quite well. Minus the very unknown for the defensive seal. The rest of this is very, very solid. So yeah, there you goes those. Move on to the next section. Okay, next up, enhanced skills. I've gone with Marksman. I feel like it is probably your best bet. Very high projectile amplification and pierce count, which I don't think matters, and I think it actually disrupts our chain, but worth the thing and worth the hit rate as well. All of it is very, very solid. Definitely want to use it. Have it linked to time acceleration and increased duration for the obvious reasons. You can also link it to a copy of Improved Technique to get a few more levels out. Also, we're using Tenacious Regen as our defensive toggle, or not toggle, as our defensive enhance. It is pretty much the only source of healing we've got. I've got it connected to Vitality Recovery for increased regeneration effect, increased duration for obviously the increased duration, time acceleration for the cooldown, decreased duration so that it has more effect but lasts longer, because I feel that getting our health up is more important than keeping the regen going. Generally, what happens with this build that I've seen is you take one big huge hit and then you're out of there. You want to get that health back up quickly, and you're not going to be using it as like taking little hits and the regen keeps filling you up. So I feel that decreased duration, getting the extra effect, is worth cutting the duration down, as well as this can't start its cooldown until the duration ends, and I would rather have a shorter cooldown than a longer duration, so that's why I've done that. Also, I've got Enhance Effect on it to obviously enhance the effect. You can also put, I realized I had moved these. You could put Enhance Effect on Marksman as well. to get more effect out of it. Is that it? That's it. Okay, moving on. Okay, final one, movement skills. I'm using roll currently for the dodge rate increase and the ability to move through enemies quickly. I tried this with trick shot. I don't feel it's as effective because the distance that trick shot moves you isn't as far. And I feel like roll is a better choice overall because it gives you a farther move and the dodge rate amplification, as well as a movement speed increase afterward. I've got it connected to disarm, obviously, and use count, obviously, and then connected to buff activation. Jesus, I can't talk. Buff activation upon using movement skill with Shout of Provocation. Shout of Provocation obviously is going to give us a good armor boost, and we definitely lack in armor the way I currently have the build, so this is going to be really strong. I've got it with all the standards: Hushed Shout, Lingering Shout, Time Acceleration, and Increased Duration, and Enhance Effect. So that thing is loaded up. The cooldown is faster than the duration, or not, it isn't quite yet because I don't have them leveled. But it will be, so you'll have full uptime on that. Also, I forgot to mention the standard buff activation upon crowd control connected to Shout of Justice. If you want to get your Shout of Justice time down, you can put... where is it? You? Where's it you? One of the two, I'm not sure. I think it's Hushed Shout. Either of these will help Shout of Justice if you have the space to throw one of them in. Hushed Shout or Lingering Shout will make it have more effect or cooldown faster so that you can use it more often. Okay, last thing of the rune board, the Runestones. Okay, now with the Runestones, normally I say don't even bother, really, they're too hard to get and whatever, and it's the same here. Obviously, get whatever you can get that you can fit. You're going to want one on your Sentry, you're going to want one on your attack enhance, and probably one on your enhanced toggle, your attack enhanced toggle. With that said, this build does benefit quite a bit from double damage, and if you can get it, the triple maximized one would probably be a very welcomed addition. Otherwise, trying to get one of the double maximized chance or the double maximized damage on your Sentry would be really, really good. Otherwise, just getting something that does damage. Sentry critical or hit rate are not really important, as the build generally will be very capped out on crit rate and hit rate. Attack speed is so small that it is not worth it. Obviously, if you get a really good one for some reason, it might be okay. Damage pen, we are capped. Don't worry about damage pen. Damage against elites obviously can be okay. Status effect, damage chance, So yeah, basically, you're going to want either just flat damage ones or ones that give you double damage chance or double damage damage. Okay, moving on. Just, like, put me down. Put me down. Stop doing these. Like, I don't want to be on screen. But he's so fluffy. Yeah, I love you. You want to get away, but you also want my attention, don't act like you. Look at his feet. Look at his little feet. Okay, let's talk gear. Now, I'm currently using Commander's Unity Miracetti's Crimson Wave as my used weapon. The only reason I'm using this is for the +2 Sentry summon count, or max Sentry summon count. I would much rather have this, much rather have this in my Lacrima, and that is the intended effect of it, is purely for this. The other stuff on here is very good, but overall as a weapon, this isn't nearly as good. I'm using this for this +2 count, so I can drop the multi-Sentry thing with a bunch of other stuff. The weapon I normally use, okay, is this one here. So you're going to go for a attack speed bow. The what was the other? The other one's a crit damage or crit rate or something. The attack speed is going to be much better, in my opinion. The I'm not sure, was it Aquila? I think it's Aquila. Is the authority I used to get sentry damage amplification. Okay. The other modifiers you are going to want are sentry damage against debuffed enemies, because you will always have this, and it's 199%. There could be other good modifiers, but this is the ones I have gone with. Sentry damage, which is, again, just a very good choice on its own. The suffixes are going to be sentry damage, or sentry critical damage, sorry. Sentry critical rate, which is absolutely critical, literally, to the build. If you can get even a halfway decent roll here, you can cap your crit with almost no effort, leaving you tons and tons of space to put other things and not have to worry about crit. I crafted crit rate onto it again, and this capped me out very, very early on. Now, in this other suffix spot, I didn't try to go for this because at the time when I crafted this, again, because it's from last season during seasonal and I didn't have a lot of resources, I skipped what I could have done. You could go with a dual authority and get the Capri element resist here, which on its own isn't particularly strong, but if you craft the bow a certain way, you can actually get quite a bit out of it. I don't remember exactly what Sentry element resist can craft into, but what you can do, or at least what I had planned to do, was do the oh my god, let's see if I can explain this properly. Do the suffixes first on the weapon, okay? Get your Sentry critical damage, your Sentry critical rate, and your Capri Sentry element resist. Craft this Sentry critical rate, and then high craft, and hope it hits the Sentry element resist, because again, it can turn into something that's really strong. And this way, it's only got two possible things it can hit. It can only hit the Sentry critical damage or the Sentry element resist, Capri Sentry element resist. And then once you get that, then dual authority and get these top ones. You'll end up with a quite a bit stronger weapon, in my opinion. But it is a huge hassle and a lot of resources. But if you really want to push the build, that's what I'd do. The legendaries, I mean, anything Sentry is obviously going to be good. I got really lucky hitting the Sentry critical damage. The Sentry area of effect doesn't affect this build, but there are versions of the build that would very much be a welcomed thing. Sentry attack speed for our authority, again, because getting attack speed is really nice. It saves us having to worry about trying to get it elsewhere. That's what I would go with here. Okay, that's it for the weapon. Oh, the other thing, I gotta remind you guys. It's something for Sentry users if you're not normally a Sentry user. Quality on this bow does 0. It does absolutely nothing for the build. Don't have to quality this. Qualitying will do nothing. 0 for the damage in the build in any way at all. It will not change anything. Okay, now we can move on to Quiver. Okay, Quiver. Now, much like the weapon, I don't have a super good version of this. I still had made this last season, and I hadn't really optimized it, and I didn't have the resources, and I'm still working on too many other things to come back to this character. But I'm going to talk about what you should have. So it's important to note that quality on this does matter if you are using the one thing in the Zodiac that I am using. So the attack damage will get transferred to your sentries. So if you're using that, make sure you get good quality on it. Your prefixes should be Sentry attack speed, Sentry damage, and then getting the Vesper authority for Sentry damage to debuffed enemies, which is quite strong, so try to get that. On the suffixes, you're going to want the Sentry critical damage from Miraceti, the Sentry crit rate? No, that can't be right. No. You want Sentry chance to deal double maximized. I had used to use Sentry crit rate, but again, with the bow set up properly, I am significantly over the crit rate cap. So go for Sentry double maximized damage chance here. And the third spot, depending how you want to go about it, you can go with Sentry hit, or you can go with Sentry hit points. And if you do Sentry hit points, you'll want to do the same thing that I was saying to do on the weapon here, because you could do a craft on Sentry critical damage to turn it into Sentry damage amplification, and then hope to hit the hit points and get Sentry critical damage. Or if you don't feel like going through all that trouble, you could just get Sentry hit. You could even keep the Sentry hit points. They're not that bad. Another good option here is to roll Sentry attack speed into Sentry damage pen. I'm not sure currently how much pen I have. I could probably actually drop this from here. But that's that. The authority modifier you want is critical or Sentry critical damage from Vesper. And I don't have what would be the good options on here for your legendaries, but obviously you should know the stuff. You're looking for anything Sentry, really, or stats in this case is also quite good. Okay, so that's it for Quiver. Now, I do want to talk about quickly the ideal thing, the one you really want to get, as opposed to that is a unique called Aquila's Flutters. And okay. And the reason you want this is because it has max Sentry summon count and maximum Sentry summon count. Which means instead of having 5 sentries, you can get 7. This is incredibly, incredibly powerful. Now, if you're super lucky, and you get a Lacrima that has both, or either or, if it has a legendary Quiver, a legendary, offhand, okay? Or not legendary, a unique offhand slot. You could put this in there, okay, which is the best case scenario. That's what you want. And then the Quiver you are using will have to change one modifier, and that is what we currently have on our Lacrima. So for the prefix, instead of going for the Vesper Sentry damage from debuffed enemies, you want to get this from Capri, which applies attack enhance skill rune effect on sentries. That would be the only difference on one that I was optimizing. Again, in the best case scenario, you would get a Lacrima. Again, we'll talk about this when I get to the Lacrima, but you want a Lacrima. It's very difficult to get. A legendary one with a two-hand, an offhand, and gloves is probably the best case scenario. I'm not 100% sure on that. I'm going to check back to this. But if you get those, you could put the bow that I'm currently using in there, and then Aquila's Flutters in here, and you could use the two good crafted ones and get more out of it. But obviously, if you get Aquila's Flutters, and you have the ability to do so, this having 7 sentries is going to do way more damage. So you should try to do that if you can get it. There are other good Quivers that are that are uniques, but I don't feel like they're as good as a well-crafted one in both spots. Again, because you're going to lose out on this here, the attack enhance thing. There is a unique Quiver that has this, but the stats on it aren't as good as getting your own crafted stuff. Okay, that's it for Quiver. Let's move on to the helmet. Okay, helmet. This is a really, really easy one. Get this helmet. The River of Life Sea King's Brim is head and shoulders better than anything you can craft. It's the best one. There is a tier 13 version of it that you can use until you get this one. It is spectacular. It's got everything you want. It's got Sentry attack speed, Sentry damage, Sentry critical rate, and +2 to Sentry skill rune level, which is really, really good. Obviously, you want the higher tier version, but the tier 13 one is really, really easy to get early on, so I absolutely recommend getting it. To the point where I don't even know what I would craft for a helmet, because there's not really much on a helmet you can craft that's going to be spectacular. I could be totally wrong, and that there's something way better than this, but I mean, it's just everything you want. It's even got some hit points for you. Make sure you use a unique quality thing so you can get some extra dodge rate. But there you go. Helmet's nice and easy. River of Life, Sea King's Brim. Moving on. Okay, let's talk amulets or necklace or whatever it's called in this game. You're going to want the Sentry damage amplification one. Even the higher tier ones only go up to this 3%, so it's pretty easy to get a perfect one. You should really try to do so. The prefixes you want: Sentry damage penetration. There is a huge, huge source of Sentry damage penetration here. Make sure you get this. It is very important. The others are Sentry damage, and I don't have it here, but you're going to want Capri Authority on this thing, because you can get chance on hit to get Sentry versatility. And that'll give you some more attack speed and some more damage penetration, which is a nice little boost to have. And we're going to use the same authority for the suffix, because we want Sentry critical damage down here as well. So that works dual purpose. It's really good. The Sentry critical damage you're going to want down here as well. Wait, no, that's wrong. Hold on. Sentry dampening or resist here. Okay, so this element resist is pretty much the only other good option. And then skill room cooldown recovery speed, because it's going to give you more uptime on your attack enhance, which is obviously very, very good. No, it is Sentry crit damage. That's the third that... Okay, man, let me restart with the suffixes. Hold on, let's go back. Skill room cooldown recovery. Absolutely get it. Then you want Sentry crit damage from the Capri Authority, and then element damage resist. Sentry element damage. There we go. That's what we want. I don't know what I said before, but that's what you actually want. With the legendaries, you're gonna want, if you get the prefixes, there's install speed or attack speed. Both are good, and you want the crit damage suffix if you can get it. The critical damage from... Oh, did I not put what that's from? Hold on one second. Necklace. It's from... Capri? Critical damage? Oh, that works perfect. There you go. Sentry critical damage. So yeah, Capri necklace all the way is what you're going to want. I don't know why I didn't do those modifiers, because I clearly got this. Maybe I didn't know about them at the time. But that's your necklace. Okay. Oh, wait, no, I didn't do the... Wait, man, I am really off today. The craft on here. Now, there's about 1 million good options. You could do more Sentry damage penetration. You could try to get more cooldown speed, which is, I think, what I was trying to go for here. You can get just a bunch of stuff. Really, just kind of use this craft to fill in a spot that you're missing. If you need more penetration or whatever, more attack speed, that's where you would get it. Okay, now we're moving on to shoulders. Okay, shoulders. The base, you're going to want the armor, dodge, resource cost dampening, because overall there's not a lot in terms of shoulders that can help your Sentry. So this is a really good spot to pick up some, to fill in some weaknesses in your character. So we're going to get the armor dodge rate, resource cost dampening. Not that we need a ton of resource cost dampening, but I did find later on when I was channeling, I was running low on mana. So this is a nice little boost to help that. You're going to want Miraceti Authority so that you can get the totem perfect dodge and roll it into skill rune effect. I didn't get a very good thing here, but really try to focus on this one. Getting a tier 13 can make a huge difference in all of your skill runes, and therefore overall in your whole character. The other one, and I already forgot the thing, I think it's Cathsor, that has chaos resistance when all of your other resistances are over 100. Should be your second one. If you can afford dual authority. If you can't afford dual authority, go with the skill rune effect. It's going to get more for you. But if you can get that chaos res, it's going to take a lot of the pressure off of your other gear. Third modifier is just straight hit points, which is obviously something we are going to need. I don't have a huge amount of health, and the build really suffers from survivability problems at the high end. On the suffixes, you're going to want Sentry damage, and then you can get Sentry hit. Not that we necessarily need Sentry hit, but you can get it here if you are having trouble. Personally, I recommend going for 2 resistances. Generally, Chaos Resist is going to be your best choice, and then whatever other resist you are missing. For the craft, you're going to want Totem Skill Rune Effect from Totem Perfect Dodge, and if you're really lucky, you'll get this flat Sentry Element penetration from your Sentry damage. Basically, you just want it to hit one of the Sentry things, ideally, so that you can get more stuff on your high craft. The legendaries are just sort of get kind of whatever you want. I don't think there's anything particularly amazing that we're aiming for here. Immune to blind, immune to chill, immune to shock are very good choices. And you want the Alyssa authority implicit for enhanced skill rune cooldown recovery speed. This is gonna again keep that uptime on your attack enhance, and it's also going to refill your tenacious regen so you can heal, since that's really our only major source of healing. Okay, that's that. Moving on to belts. Okay, belts. We will be going with a stats belt here. With the prefixes are real easy because you're going to want, what is it, Miracetti? No, it's Hamal, sorry. Hamal for totem hit point so that you can get skill rune effect. Again, try to get this as high as possible. This skill rune effect makes a huge damage to the build. Then you're going to want hit point percent and flat hit point. I got unlucky here and got a high craft where I hit the hit critical rate and remove the hit points. You don't want that. On the suffixes, you're going to want Leo authority for sentry damage upon using a mana potion. With this, I set my mana potion to a very, very high thing, so it's going to go off as much as it can. That will, one, solve part of the problem of having mana issues, which it doesn't really have, but that'll solve it, as well as keep uptime on this. Now, it doesn't look like it's much of a damage boost, but at tier 13, it's something like 140%, so it's very strong. The other you're going to want is the Leo Dexterity. A high roll on that can give you quite a bit of dexterity overall and get you a lot of dodge and stuff, as well as it does something in your Zodiac where it helps your sentries based on how much, I think it's hit rate maybe, that they get based on your dexterity. The other thing you're going to want here is probably one of the mana potion things. I think you can get mana potion cooldown as your third modifier. I can't totally remember. You can also get sentry hit point on here if you feel they need it. I never felt that sentries need to stay alive very long, but you can get sentry hit point here. You're going to want mana potion cooldown recovery speed, at least in my opinion, or health potion cooldown recovery speed. Either of the two, because even though this health potion doesn't do much, the other health potion that I set as at about 25% health to go off, the emergency big heal one, can make a difference there. What are the options? I'm not sure what you can get for legendaries. I got hit points, and that was good enough because I feel it has survivability issues. But there is some sentry stuff. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. Is there anything else I need to say about this? Nope. You're gonna You're gonna craft here, and generally you're gonna want the high craft to hit something. Again, like if it could hit the sentry hit points and roll it into sentry crit damage or something, that would be really, really good if you can. Okay, moving on to the chess piece. Okay, let's talk chess piece. Now, there are a few chess pieces that give you sentry things as the implicit. I don't feel they are honestly worth it. What I would go with here, which is not what I'm wearing, would be an armor dodge with element dampening as the implicit. Or is it just damage? Damage taken dampening? It's damage taken dampening. Which is really good because, again, we have issues with survivability. The modifiers you want to go for here. Now, if you want to get really, really optimal about this and really, really push it, you could go for a triple authority, but getting the 2 prefixes is going to be very difficult. The 2 prefixes are the 2 important ones, and if you're going to do a dual authority, I would go for that as opposed to a prefix suffix. So the 2 prefixes you would want are Aquila for Sentry skill damage rune level, or skill rune level, get it to +3. And the other one you would like to try and get is Spica damage dampening. It's a lot of damage dampening. It's like 15% or something. It's very, very strong if you get it. And the third one is just flat hit point, or it's not flat hit points, hit point percent. Your suffixes. Now, if you don't want to go for the triple authority version, it should just be 3 resists. Probably chaos resist, and then the other 2 as high as you can get them, because resists aren't easy to come by in this build, so this is a really good spot to stock up on them. But if you want to get a little more and drop one of the resists and try to make a triple authority piece, 2 prefix, 1 suffix, you could go for either Alyssa's dampen damage taken as mana, or not dampen damage, sorry, damage taken as mana, which is a nice, again, survivability increase for us. Or you can go with Hamal's hit point amp, which is also pretty good in terms of survivability. Either of those would make a good thing. Otherwise, just go with 3 resistances. The authority implicit you're going to want is damage taken dampening. There is element and there is physical, but the damage taken does chaos, physical, and element all at the same time. So that's what you're going to want. There's about 1 million good modifiers you can get here. Good luck getting any of them. Just try to get a legendary that is solid. Is that it? I think that's it. Okay, let's move on. Okay, let's talk rings. You're going to want the Sentry damage rings. There is a Sentry critical rate, but you're definitely not going to need that, so go for the damage ones. Your modifiers are... These things are absolutely loaded with damage if you set them up right. You're definitely going to want to go dual authority here. So the prefixes, you're going to want Sentry damage amplification from the Miracetti authority, Sentry attack speed, and then Sentry damage. In this case, I got Sentry install speed, and I crafted it to Sentry critical, which is fine. But if you get Sentry damage, you're going to get more out of it. If you get attack speed, you can craft it into Sentry penetration, and this will basically, between the 2 rings, and what was the other piece that had a lot of penetration? Yes. The necklace. Between the 2 rings and the necklace, you'll basically cap your penetration. For your suffixes, you're going to want Sentry double damage chance, okay, as opposed to the crit chance, because, again, we are going to hit that crit cap very, very easily. Sentry critical damage, and the Hamal, this is where you go, the dual authority, for Sentry overpower effect. Obviously, Sentry overpower effect is going to be very strong on its own. It is going to give you more penetration, and eventually you can drop one of these penetrations and craft it into something else. Again, I recommend the damage penetration for your craft. There are other good options in here. There's a whole lot of stuff. You can see here I got the Sentry overpower effect on this one. As for your legendaries, there's a whole mess of them, and if you're using Sentry rings, you're going to be more likely to get them. Sentry attack speed is good. Sentry critical rate is good. Sentry critical damage is good. For the authority modifiers, you're going to get either Sentry damage or Sentry critical damage. It really doesn't matter. They're about the same amount that you're going to get either way. Don't think there's anything else for ring. Yeah, there you go. Let's move on to gloves. Future Mike here. I want to talk briefly about Finger of Command. I don't feel like it is a particularly great ring, but if you get it early on and you don't have the resources to craft or the knowledge to craft something good, this can be pretty solid. 5% damage for every 50 strength. You can get up to 50% damage on them. Sentry attack speed up to 10%, and 8% damage amp if your strength and dex are identical, which is easy enough to do by just removing and adding them back in. So it's a pretty solid ring. It's really lacking a lot of the really good stuff you can get on rings, but as a temporary stopgap, Finger of Command can definitely do nicely in a pinch. Okay, gloves. Now, this is a major departure from what I did in my original build video, because after doing some research, I have come to the conclusion that I'm an idiot. Now, obviously, a lot of people know that different base types will give you different stats as options, and generally I don't bother looking too deeply into it. In this case, if I had bothered to look at all, so the gloves I have on, the only thing they do for Sentry is this one modifier, Sentry damage amplification. The rest of it is fine. It's all, whatever stuff, but this is the only one that does anything for Sentry. Now, if you had taken, where? Oh my god. So, the armor dodge, resource cost dampening gloves, have a completely different set of baked in options, and they are way better for Sentry. So, let me go through these, and I'll show you them on the gloves itself, so that you can see what I'm talking about. If I look at this pair, the armor dodge, and I look at the options, we've got Sentry, 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 all baked in. But if I look at the ones that I'm wearing, which are just straight dodge, show you. We look here, you can see that there is no Sentry anything. So absolutely, armor dodge, resource cost dampening gloves are the absolute way to go. You don't necessarily need the resource cost dampening, but of course it is nice. The armor dodge, both of them are good, and we have survivability issues, so any stuff we get is going to be good. What we want on the gloves, for the prefix, we're going to get the Hamal, Boreal, or Aquila authority, so that we can get Sentry damage. Flat Sentry damage, it's a great roll. Did I put that over here? On the rings? I might have to go back and check something after. So you want, again, Hamal, Boreal, or Aquila, Sentry damage prefix. After that, you want Sentry attack speed, and flat hit points, or percent hit points. Either will do well. After that, you want Capri authority, so it is a dual authority, for the Sentry damage amplification. Then you want Sentry critical damage and Sentry double damage chance. Again, we don't need the crit chance, so this is a great place to get some more double damage. As for the legendaries, there's only one suffix that does... God, I can't talk. The Sentry damage. Oh, yeah. I don't know why I'm bothering to show. I didn't show it on any of the other ones, but there it is. That's the only one that does anything for suffixes. As for the prefixes, I mean, they're all just going to be something, immune to shock, immune to chill, gear armor, element. They're all just basics, and that's fine. As for the authority modifier, authority implicit, either Sentry critical damage or Sentry damage. Again, they're going to be about the same value, and they're on like 20 of the different authorities. So just try to get one of them. Okay, I'm gonna go check if I did the ring thing, and I'll be right back. Okay, future Mike here. I forgot to mention briefly the unique pair of gloves. There is a tier 4 unique Iron Thumb. that very early on is really, really good for the build. It's got hit rate, attack rate, crit damage, all very solid stuff. And its tier 33 counterpart, same thing with all better stuff. These can be a great piece to use until you get the ability to craft better stuff. They also make a nice addition in the Lacrima if you happen to get a unique glove spot. They are pretty solid. I think that's it. Moving on. Okay, final gear piece. Let's talk about boots. Now, boots have absolutely nothing that is even remotely good for sentries in terms of like anything big. Now, what you're going to want to do is make these sort of your get all your resistances and stuff. There is one thing you can do. You can either take the prefix for Sentry Perfect Dodge or the suffix for Sentry Block XP. I recommend taking the Sentry Perfect Dodge prefix, and then you can roll it into one of the good Sentry modifiers that you need. It goes through a lot of them. It does crit damage and damage and penetration, yada, yada, yada. That's the only thing on here that's Sentry, is the one prefix that as far as I recommend. Outside of that, obviously you're going to want move speed 11 or higher, and then maybe a hit point or something. Again, there's not a ton of good options. As for the bottom, all resistances. This should be a huge chunk of your resistances. I did really crappy on these rolls because I didn't care. As for the legendaries, there's basically nothing. Go for something like immune to freeze like I got. The implicit, I would go with resource cost, but there are other ones that are okay. Honestly, there's nothing of note here, but that's there. As for the base, I would do armor, dodge, movement speed, movement skill, cooldown speed, so you can move more. Yeah, nothing really special going on here at all. That is all of the gear. I'm not sure which section I got to work next, but here we go.
Oh, you're such a fluffy girl. You're not gonna give me a purr though. Or...
Don't you dare.
Look at her little face though. Such a pretty girl.
Yeah, but can you give me treats? Like...
You're really just looking for a way downer.
Okay, next up is Charms. Now, Charms got a huge update when it comes to Sentry stuff, because we only ever had Spica that really did anything for it. Now, you will see I'm using Vesper here. That is only because I can't find a proper Lacrima with what I want, which would be Cathsor. So let's start looking at Alyssa. If we look at the Alyssa stuff, you're going to get Sentry damage at 40, you're going to get Sentry damage amp at 140, and at 230, you're going to get 8% chance to deal double maximized damage. That's a big chunk of double maximized, and Sentries really, really benefit a lot from double maximized, so it's a good option to get. Spica's for itself. Oh god, that's terrible. It's the Sentry one. Everything on here is Sentry. Hit points, attack speed, max regen, damage amp, damage against enemies with status effect, which is all of them because we're lightning, and Sentry damage amp. Now, I went with Cathsor as my other for the... it's supposed to go to 140. I don't have it set up properly, but at... wow, I'm looking at the wrong one. At Cathsor. You get some element resist, you get some totem hit point, which doesn't really come into play with my version of the build. Damage taken decrease at 80% is really nice, because again, we are very squishy. And if you can get to... Oh, never mind. I don't need to get to 140. There was something else. I wanted to do another thing where I did like a Boreal to 80 or something so I could get the armor amp. Yeah, that's what it was. It was either Boreal. Jeez, I didn't do a super good job updating this. I apologize. Let me go through this again. Okay, so obviously Alyssa and Spica. Then you want Cathsor up to 80. Okay, and then you want to try. I'm not sure if it's possible, but if you can, either Leo to 80 for the dodge rate or Boreal to 80 for armor amp. I know somebody said you can get to two 230s and a 190. I don't know if that's possible, but if you can, then the same math would allow you to do what I just said. As for the charms themselves, Sentry critical rate, Sentry critical damage, and then Sentry damage, or whatnot. You don't actually, because again, I keep talking about, you can get way over the crit rate really easily with these. You don't always need to hit the Sentry critical rate, which means you can try to get more Sentry double damage and whatchamacallit does. So yeah, double damage chance. And what was the other one? There's another Sentry one that I wanted to... Sentry attack speed is another good one. Obviously, the legendary, the only one that really we care about at all is Sentry damage amplification. Nothing else that can even remotely help us. When it comes to your star, as much Sentry double damage as you can get, and the maximized damage doesn't actually apply. I'm not sure if there is Sentry maximized damage anywhere that I've looked yet, but if there is, that would be a great thing to be able to get as well. Again, Sentry critical damage, obviously very welcomed in here as well. Whew, okay, on to charm upgrade slot. Okay, charm slot upgrades. Blessing effect for your star. I feel like this is a pretty duh move. I have seen very, very few builds that use anything besides blessing effect because those high value charm blessings are so strong that it's very much worth it. I honestly haven't even really bothered to look. There's, things like Sentry option, which, I guess could be good, but then you would lose blessings elsewhere, and I'm not sure you could make it work that this would be better. So for the most part, probably just blessing effect on your star. Now, this is where you run into some, it's going to totally depend on what you have. So the two you're going to want to consider for the all spot, okay, is Sentry 1, because you'll get the blessing effect. It's going to let you help you get to those higher blessing values. Once you've hit those blessing values, you can actually get away with using Sentry 2, and depending on your gear and if it's legacy and if it's not, this can be stronger. But it's totally going to depend on if your gear is legacy or not legacy and what your options you have. So you're going to have to do some testing on your own, switching back and forth. It might cost you a little bit, but you're going to have to for those two. The other one that is worth considering for the all slot is, where is it? The T9 or above prefix one. Now, if you have all T9 Sentry critical, T9 Sentry critical damage, T9 Sentry damage, this could significantly overtake either of these. But it's going to totally depend if you have T9 options. Now, keep in mind, when this shows T9, okay, it doesn't mean the charm. It means that the option itself is tier 9 or above. And it could, again, overtake that. Critical is also a temporary option. If you are playing a character where you've already got this maxed out, critical will do well because it'll give you extra Sentry critical damage and Sentry critical rate. But overall, this isn't going to be your best option because this one will hit the Sentry damage and the Sentry attack speed and whatnot as well as the legendary options. Same with this one. So they're going to be best for your all slot. But you're going to likely end up using the blessing effect one on one of your Cathsor or whatever your third option is. You can obviously use this to make sure you hit your 230 blessings on the other two. Obviously, after that, it's really just going to be whatever you can get high enough that will work. So things like the legendary blessing effect, I need this to make sure that I hit my 230. It's also got some great prefix option stuff. Suffix option, prefix option one is good. Suffix, prefix one again. And just legendary just blessing effect, prefix, suffix, all that stuff's very good as well. This again I needed so that I can hit a certain value. There's a lot of options here. Maximized can even come into play if you get a really, really good setup with the maximized stuff. This is probably one of the most flexible charm slot setups that I've run into, where so many things can work for it. Even like legendary attack 3 can be usable at different points when you're using this. But really, all you're going to be trying to do is get either Sentry 1 or Sentry 2 on all, and then filling in the other ones with what you can. Trying to put the stronger ones on the ones that are, so like I'm trying to get the better ones on here, because this has got 4 Sentry things. It's basically a perfect charm for Sentries. Okay, I don't even know what's next. Let's get to it. Okay, the Zodiac. Obviously, with the Season 4 update, the almost entire Zodiac got redone, with the exception of the specialties. With that, there has been a lot of changes to the build and what I've done. I've tried to go back and revamp it since my video I did a couple of weeks ago talking about my first impressions of it. I've made a couple of changes, and it's, again, there's a lot of good stuff. Let's get into this thing. Zodiac Special 1, there's literally only 5 points that are Sentry. You have to take these 5. So in planes, you're going to go across the bottom, do the Sentry stuff. Okay. Your stone, obviously, should just be flat Sentry damage. I don't think there's anything special. You can see I haven't bothered to redo these this season yet. I don't think there was anything special in there to worry about. So get what you can, obviously Sentry stuff or health stuff for yourself. Okay, trait 2 is where I've definitely made some changes. I have still taken this entire thing. A lot of it isn't particularly important, but the first few Zodiac things force you to take stuff to move on to the later ones, and you have to pick something, and these at least do something. So across the bottom is good because it's projectile stuff, it's Sentry stuff. Across the top, it does melee, but it does do Sentry critical rate, bestial energy does some Sentry damage, and then Sentry critical rate again. Obviously pretty solid, but we have to take this whole thing, basically. Now, the other thing that I've taken, because we needed to spend 3 points, and you'll notice I have not spent a single point in 4. Previously, I had taken some points that were crap because I needed to take something, and then I saw another Sentry user doing this, so I stole it. It's great. It's a great choice. Shout rune effect, enhanced skill rune effect, and some hit points. All good stuff. -2 enhanced skill resource cost, who cares? Tenacious personality, enhanced skill rune duration, and enhanced skill rune cooldown. That means your offensive and defensive enhanced skills get some stuff. This is really good. This is super good because obviously we need it. Now, you could go across to here and get more stuff, but I don't feel like these points are actually worth it. But these 3 are so much better than what I had taken previously. As for the stone, if you get a 4 purple, so whatever sadness, I'm not sure what purple is, you can get Sentry attack speed per 1 node in Swamp, which is the one we are taking the entire thing. No, wait, hold on. Where is it? I'm looking at the wrong thing. No, I'm totally looking at the wrong thing. Oh, that's not the right thing. They changed it. I forgot that they changed these. My apologies. Anyway, what you're going to be really looking for here, obviously, is just like, again, Sentry damage, some resists and hit points for yourself, and whatever you are lower on, whether it's dodge or armor. If you feel that your armor needs work, get the armor one. Otherwise, get the dodge. Moving on. In trait 3, we're going to be in Unos. Again, this is the only Sentry stuff. Going from Sentry attack speed over to Professor. You get some summon duration, which really doesn't make a damn difference. But you do get the Sentry rune level, which is pretty strong. And some other stuff. I mean, damage taken dampening by Sentry and stuff, all very good. As for the stone, I would go with the damage taken by Sentry dampening. Just a little bit of help. And again, try to get some stuff for sentries, but more importantly, take care of yourself. Because a lot of these aren't going to be damage related. They're going to be block expertise, hit points and stuff. And I've talked about at length how I don't feel like sentries need to be alive for more than a shot or two anyway. So if they survive, who cares? Moving on to trait 4. Nope. Moving on to trait 5. Okay, trait 5. First, though, I joked about, obviously, with 4. Yeah, you're not putting any points in there. Now, with that said, if you're putting the 3 points over here, yes, you're getting some enhanced skill effect, but you are losing the ability to get a Zodiac Stone here. And besides the Sentry hit point one, you can get one that is hit points for yourself. And you're losing these things to get the other stuff. I do feel like it is still worth it to come over here and get the enhanced skill stuff. I think it's going to help more than that stone is. But let it be known that you won't be able to put a stone in here because you can't activate. You need at least 3 points, the thing. Anyways, moving on to 5. I've gone across the top for the aim at target. Okay, Sentry damage amp. Physical damage taken dampening by Sentry. Cool, good stuff. I've gone across the second from the bottom for double damage chance and maximize damage. Because, again, very, very few sources of maximized Sentry damage available. This is one of the good ones. Now, I previously had gone across here to get these Sentry damage, or critical damage and stuff. Again, I don't feel like the little bit of critical damage, so you get 25% Sentry critical damage by going across here. For 4 points, you get that. The Sentry critical rate obviously is no issue to us. I keep talking about this, that with a well-crafted bow, you absolutely don't need to worry about critical rate. So I feel like this is an absolute waste. Across the bottom is a lot of Sentry health stuff. And I see people go across here. I don't feel like it's worth the points. I don't feel like they're very good. So that's in mine. There's those. And then we also... That's the same one, dummy. Then we also go up here, okay, into lightning. So now this is Sentry damage against elites and stuff. I don't necessarily feel like that's the strong point. But with all together, you're getting 2% chance to deal maximized. And you're getting some stats and stuff. I feel like that 2% chance to deal maximized is actually worth it. You can also, if you want to, and I kind of recommend doing it, I don't have it in this version right now, but going up into group defense is really recommended. 12% damage taken decrease. You've already got the points in here. It's probably worth going to this. That's a lot of dampening for a squishy build. As for the Zodiac Stone, attack, aura, and seal effect is probably your best bet. And then, again, you're going to be looking for, like, whatever stuff. Sentry install speed, you can get a huge chunk of Sentry install speed on this one. I'm not sure, there was another stone that also can get a huge chunk, but this is a really huge chunk of Sentry install speed, and it's spots like this that are going to allow you to drop the quick Sentry install link rune. So don't skip that Sentry install speed on this particular stone. As for that, the rest of it, obviously just get what you... Okay, on to 6. Okay, into 6, we are going with 2 branches in this again. In flow, you're going to start down at Sentry damage, go up through Slaughter, into Substitute, and then down into Stealer. It's a 5% damage amp. Substitute's got some perfect dodge and stats. This is just an extra floating point that I didn't know what to do with. I don't put this point here, and I don't think going... I've seen people go down into Capable Person. I don't feel like it's worth putting 2 points just to get 2 extra stats and some Sentry hit rate that we don't need. I would rather take this point and one other and try to go back up and get that other thing. That's something I'm working on. As for the Zodiac Stone, there's dodge. It's all dodge stuff. Whatever one you can get. Personally, I would go with one that's for yourself, and probably go with like a dot dodge, or a stun dodge. What's it called? Crowd control. I would go with either of those. There's nothing particularly amazing in the things that I've seen. Just go for whatever values you can get. On the other branch, in float, I've gone from the Sentry in the middle over through manipulate Sentry. Again, critical rate and damage, which is okay. But down to this Sentry damage amplification, which I think is good. I see people go up into here for the Sentry Chaos Resist. Again, I don't feel like putting points into Sentry Survival is worth it when you could get more damage. I wouldn't bother with those 2 points. The Stone, I already talked about. What am I talking about? Moving on to 7. Okay. 7 doesn't have, like, anything for Sentries at all. I did come and take these 3 points for some Chaos damage dampening, and more so that I can get my attack enhanced skill rune effect Stone active. Again, get whatever you can get on here. Hit points and stuff is generally going to be a good choice. If you don't feel like you need this, obviously you don't need to put these 3 points in if you don't want that Zodiac Stone, but attack enhanced skills are obviously very, very strong in this game. So I've bothered to put those 3 points, and these seem to be the best 3 in terms of stuff that's going to help. Because Chaos Dampening is hard to get, and some Chaos Resist, you get 10 Chaos Resist across the 3, is also, important. But I wouldn't put any more into here. Yeah. Okay. In 8, we're going into Aurora. Across the bottom for the Sentry stuff, and double maximize. Again, that maximized Sentry damage is hard to get. This is going to be good stuff. Across here, because we are shock effect, damage amplification against shocked enemies, shock duration, shock effect, all very good stuff. The Stone, Sentry attack speed, speaks for itself. Again, try to get some good Sentry stuff. You can get hit point or hit rate and stuff, but generally there's not going to be anything too mind-blowing that I have seen. If I ever discover anything in any of these stones that is really special and you should get, I will let you guys know, but for now, nothing really special there. Moving on to Trait 9. Okay, Trait 9, we take a whole lot of stuff in Wave, and there's a lot of reasons that I do this. Obviously, across the bottom here, the lightning stuff, that we use the lightning, so that's going to be important. It's going to do amplification against shocked enemies, and when you summon a Sentry with max lightning energy, and it decreases every 1 second. So you get the full lightning effect. It only takes 5 seconds to go away, but you should be summoning those Sentries that quickly anyway. I've done the same across fire, okay, to get the fire energy effect and summon with max energy, and I have done across the top for the Sentry Sentry damage penetration and chance to deal double maximized damage is 8%. It's a huge amount. Yes, you lose some critical rate, but as I keep saying, critical rate is not an option. Now, I did have this here. I had taken these points up to there, and I realized I don't need those. These summoning it will give the poison energy will give you attack speed, and summoning this will give the attack speed boost. But again, I don't feel like these 2 points were so important, and these 2 might go as well. I might just drop them. I took these 2 points out and I went back up into rate 5 and went to group defense. I don't know why I didn't do this in the first place, because Sentry attack speed is not something that's a huge deal, because generally you're going to summon them, they're going to fire like once or twice, and you're going to summon a new set. So their attack speed in like how quickly they go, it's not a big deal. I don't feel like these poison points are actually worth it anymore. I'm not sure where I'm going to go put these 2 points. Keep in mind, though, you do need to get this stone, because it's got Sentry damage penetration. And I don't want to lose this currently. Chance for Sentry to deal double maximize damage when 3 or more Cosmos nodes is activated. But I can't use the stone itself. So this is a really strong thing, but I can't use the stone. I'm going to have to work on a new stone for that. Whew, okay, on to the specialties. Okay, Sentry. There's only one Sentry specialty, so obviously you're going to be taking that. In Sentry 1, we're going to go up through Uplift into Candle Shadow for 6% damage amp, and up through Projection for max Sentry summon count, into Sentry Amplification. So as they are installed, they get 20 stacks, so they get 20% damage amp. Every 1 second it drops. Again, you're going to be summoning them very quickly, so this is going to be a good thing. The stone itself, obviously we're going to want one that gives us stats, because I don't think there are any that... You know what? Let's go look. I don't think there's any stones that do anything. Sentry for special 1. Stone. No, there are no Sentry related. So you can either go with a stat one for yourself. No, never mind. That's all you're going to want is a stat one. So you're going to want generally either strength or dex. Don't need int in this build, so try to get a stone with strength or dex. As for the options on the stone, Sentry Amplification when Sentry Amplification effect when Sentry Amplification node is active in cast pull. Now we take cast pull and Sentry damage amp, which is this right here. You're gonna get 40% damage amp because of this. It's huge. It's huge. Make sure you get this. You can only, as far as I remember, get it on a purple 4, but this is huge. So you should definitely try to get this. Outside of that, there are other good things for Sentry, but this should be a huge priority. Moving on to Zodiac 2. Okay, Special 2, we're going to be going up through Overpower Sentry. Overpower is always going to be a really good choice. So it'll give you penetration and flat damage into the Sentry damage amp. Can't go wrong there. Hit rate, so we're going to go down through aim. They get hit rate amplification and critical rate against moving enemies. Again, the critical rate's not a big deal, but the hit rate amplification could come into play at least. But this isn't as important as this here. 1 Sentry armor for every 10 strength, 1 Sentry damage for every 10 dexterity. So you can easily get both of these. You're not going to get a lot of Sentry element resist, but you're going to get some. Obviously very good. None of the other stuff in here is really even worth noting. The stone itself, you're going to want dampen damage taken, obviously for yourself. The Sentries don't need it nearly as much as you do. I can't remember if there are any good modifiers to keep your eyes out for. Here, well, you know what? Let's go look right now. Let's go look together as a team. Where am I going? Where am I going? Okay, motion engraving. We wanted 2. Let's see if there's anything that really stands out. Probably not. Sentry damage penetration if you're not already capped. Sentry damage at full hit points. Sentry damage amp. Only available on stars, which shouldn't be a problem, but that would obviously be very nice to get. Yep, that looks like it. Okay. Yep, okay. Moving on. Okay, in Zodiac 3, early on, you were going to want to take sharpness until you can get your crit rate up and situated. You can go down into inject to help get your crit rate up as well. Once you've got your crit rates organized, okay, you will no longer need this. You can drop this. And with that, it opens up a whole bunch of options. You can... I mean, I personally go up into modify, okay? I feel like it's a lot of damage. And close range shot is nice, because I feel like the Sentries, you're just going to be dropping them on the enemy anyways. So that one's pretty good. I think that whole branch is worthwhile. The other stuff, you have a ton of options. Going up into here to get the max Sentry summon count so that you can take that pressure off of somewhere else is really good, okay? And then going down into attack tactics lets you take that modifier off of your Quiver and get it here instead. Totally viable option. Currently, I've gone down into Absorbing Sentry because, again, I keep talking about we have very few ways to gain health. This is only effective when mapping. It's not effective against bosses, so I really don't feel like this is particularly good. But for the moment, it's what I use. Sentry Expertise is really nice. Sentry takes 15% of the damage instead. I feel like that's a good one. But these two are very floaty. You could either take these two off and put them up here, or put them down here, or take these 4 off, put 2 up here, and 2 down here. This floats quite a bit. Also, you know, honorable mention for here, 12 Sentry damage amp for 3 seconds upon summoning. You're going to be summoning them very quickly during mapping and during fights, I feel, anyway. So those are definitely all good options. Again, this is totally going to depend on your situation, this last one, because maybe you're going to need the sharpness. Maybe you don't care about the healing and you just want to go up and drop both of these and go nuts over here. There's lots of options in this one. As for the stone, Sentry damage amp, not even a question, obviously is going to be the thing you want. What was it on Wrath? Or Wrath, what was it? There was some reason I took that stone down here. No, that's not. Never mind. I was wrong. I totally. The one thing that is good in this stone is Sentry takes damage instead. Much like the Zodiac point, this is, again, very, very strong. Unfortunately, it doesn't show you how much it takes. Hopefully, they'll fix that in the future. There's not really much else in here, honestly, that's worth getting. Dampen damage taken while channeling can be okay, but I find I don't really channel much, even though I do use the channel. Outside of that, there's really not much else in here. Get what you can. And what do we got? Zodiac stats, and we're done the Zodiac. Okay, Zodiac stats. Really, you're just kind of splitting them between Dex and Strength. Dex is obviously going to give you more dodge rate. Strength is going to give you more hit points and armor. Balance them as you need. Again, some of the special Zodiac things require you to have a certain amount of strength and a certain amount of dodge to make the most of them. Outside of that, you know, get what you can. If you really, really feel like you need to get more element resist for your things, you can put some to int, but I feel like it's a huge waste. Okay, we are done that. Let's move on to the next section. You having a little trouble there, Statler? What the hell just happened? Oh, hi. Okay, let's talk Lacrima. Now, in a best case scenario, you're going to get a Lacrima that has a a unique two-handed weapon and a unique quiver. If you can get that, you can do some really interesting stuff. Otherwise, your best bet here is to get a two-handed weapon and either get max sentry summon count or craft it into simultaneous sentry summon count so that you can get extra sentries or remove the multi-sentry link route. The quiver, if you're not already using one that applies attack enhanced skill rune effect on sentries, or using it in the Zodiac, this is a great place to get it without losing stuff on your main stuff. Now again, if you can get a legendary a legendary Lacrima with a unique two-handed weapon and a unique offhand, you can put the bow I am currently using, Commander's Unity, in, and what is the quiver? Aquila's Flutters, I believe, is what it is. Hold on. I remember how to do a thing. Aquila's Flutters, yes. And with that, you'll be able to run 7 sentries at once. Obviously, it's a very, very strong thing, but it does require either maining both of these things or putting both of these things in your Lacrima, which is the better of the two scenarios. It's going to be hard to get, obviously, because it two-handed, unique Lacrimas are sort of the thing that a lot of people want. But if you can manage to pull it off, that's going to be your best case scenario. If you can't, like I said, getting the max Sentry summon count or simultaneous Sentry summon count and the attack enhanced skill on here is a great thing for your Lacrima. There are a few other good uniques you can put in here that maybe if you don't have access to them. The helmet, if you don't already have it on, or if you get a helmet spot, you can put your helmet in here and then wear something else. There's a pair of unique gloves. Hold on, let's go really quick here. Hey, what are you, Sentry? Are you new? What is this? Okay, that's... Hold on. Three. No, nothing there. Chest piece, nothing. Gloves. These are a good option if you get a glove spot, a unique glove spot in your Lacrima, because they've just got some good stuff. Crit rate, damage, sentry attack, sentry hit rate. Overall, pretty solid. Shoes, I don't think have anything. Sentry. So yeah, those either the helmet or the gloves, if you happen to get those slots. If not, there's not really much in terms of uniques that aside from quivers and bows that is going to be worth trying to get a unique in here. But again, if you can get a two-hander and an offhand unique, that's going to be, I mean, best case scenario. Okay, what do we got now? We got something else, I'm sure. We've got the Relic and Avatars. Okay. Relic and Avatars is sort of a weird spot where normally, as other builds go, this is a very, very strong thing. Unfortunately, here, there's not a lot of very good active skills. Because if you're going to use an offensive skill, okay, in the case of this, let's say we're going to do this. Say this guy, and we're going to use Flame Orb because we're going to use it offensively. It will only activate when you summon a Sentry. And since you're not going to be summoning Sentries rapid fire, this isn't very effective. Obviously, one of the other ways you can go is a Curse, and it's got same deal where it's only going to happen as you hit the button, which doesn't give it a lot of uptime, and forces you to summon when you don't necessarily want to summon. So the last possible one is buffs, and almost every buff available for your relic, or for your avatar, sorry, is not going to help you as a player. So a lot of the time you'll see people use mental stimulation. It gives element damage amplification, and you take extra damage. But this doesn't affect your Sentry. It gives you the damage, not the Sentry. It doesn't help. So all you're really doing is giving yourself damage taken decrease. With that said, with all of this said, the only one I've found that is even kind of worth using is Sharpness. And we're only using this because we're using Inject. And Inject will give us a little bit more crit rate if you still need crit rate. And once you've done that, you should probably go for something like Focus, where it's got a little bit of block chance and stuff. There's really, really not many active skills that are going to help you here. Again, looking for one that gives you, the player, some kind of defensive ability or whatnot is probably going to be your best bet. After saying all that, the passives are actually really good. The Avatar of Sefdar has a straight Sentry skill rune level, plus some Sentry damage. Good stuff. Definitely want to get that one maxed out. Avatar of Alyssa gives Sentry critical rate, Sentry critical damage, and more Sentry critical damage. Awesome stuff. Definitely want to get that one. Avatar of Spica does Sentry armor, Sentry element resist. Again, I don't feel like the survivability of the character is very important. I'm not sorry, of the character, of the sentries is very important. So you definitely could switch this out in favor of something that's going to give you extra move speed or something else that you feel is going to be helpful. I went with it, but I don't necessarily feel like this one is absolutely critical. Maybe at the much higher end, it could be more important. As for the last one, Boreal, it's pretty much the the standard options here for your fourth avatar, because the options are so few that have anything good. So in this case, we just went with the one for hit points because we could use hit points. Now here you have two options when it comes to your type, your soul gem and your core type. You could either go dex or strength. It's really not a huge deal either way. Obviously, the strength is going to give you more hit points and more armor, and the dex is going to give you more dodge. Personally, I would go for the strength and armor ones, or do a dodge and a strength. I'm not really sure how effective any of it's going to be, but you want to make sure your armor is capped. But once your armor is capped, dodge is going to be better for you overall. As for the modifiers on them, obviously you're going to be looking for things that are Sentry related and possibly avatar buff use or avatar curse use, depending on what you're going to go with. Okay, on to, what is it, jewels, I think? Let's go to jewels. Okay, jewels. I'll be totally honest with you. There's nothing super amazing here for sentries. There's lots of good stuff, but there's nothing that's like gonna blow your skirt up, at least as far as I'm concerned. So let's start with the star jewel. And we're gonna go way down to the bottom. We're looking for empty device. Did I already... Okay, anyways. So Piercing Rage is going to be a decent choice. Sentry critical rate, Sentry critical damage. Now, I keep mentioning that we don't really need the Sentry critical rate, but this is a good, at least, placeholder. I'm on a black jewel. That's the problem. I'm going to go to the correct one. Let's try this again. There we go. Okay, now, now we're on the right one. Empty something or other. What did I just say? Empty device. Empty device. There we go. So Sentry Chaos resist and Sentry damage. This is a lot of Sentry Chaos resist. If you are concerned about keeping your sentries alive, this can be good. And the damage is pretty solid. Overall, I mean, good, but nothing mind-blowing. Strengthened Sentry Tension gives you damage amplification and Sentry hit points. And personally, I feel like this is going to be the best of the Star Jewel options. Then there's, what is it, Choking Sentry. Wish they would give us a search function for this. Of course. No, it's Shocking. Shocking Sentry. Choking. I spelled it wrong. Sentry. And I still can't find it. Oh my god. Why did they do this? Like, there it is, Shocking Sentry. So this will give you shock rate and damage against shocked enemies, which isn't bad. The shock rate I don't feel like we need. I feel like we shock everything we hit no matter what. But this damage against shocked enemies is decent. It's not the best thing in the world, but it's good if you happen to have a third Star Jewel slot and you've already picked the other two, because you can't double up on these. So this would be not a terrible choice. And Rune Counselor, for skill rune cooldown, recover speed, and skill rune duration, it's going to help all of your stuff. I think that's probably the next best one. Okay, moving on to Black Jewel. Down to the bottom, we're going to start with Piercing Rage, which I already mentioned. Sentry critical rate, Sentry critical damage. Again, if you're low on crit rate, still somehow low on crit rate, this can be a not bad Black Jewel. Again, it does give you crit damage, but it's not a ton. it can be a strong contender if you need a black jewel slot filled and you have to put something in there. Instinctive counterattack is only used defensively, but it is, you know, a decent amount of physical damage taken dampening. I use one of these in my main builds, and I feel like you should use this unless you have really strong dampening. And then its counterpart for element, backlight, does the same thing, but for element damage taken dampening. Obviously, the reflect, whatever, doesn't matter, but those two are good defensively. Tenacious personality does enhance skill rune duration and enhanced skill. Jeez, I can't talk. Enhanced skill rune cooldown recovery speed. Very strong. Obviously, works on both offensive and defensive enhances, which is very good. Outside of that, you've got the two just natural options, which are Sentry attack speed amp, which is a decent amount and can help you get your sentries to full speed. I definitely think these would be very strong if you use them. And then filling in any other spots with Sentry damage amp. It's not a huge amount of amp, but obviously if you can get it, you should. And down to white jewels. There's really not a lot going on here that is super strong. Strength and string, damage and hit points. It's a very small amount of damage. It's a very small amount of hit points. But if you only have white jewels, this is something solid. What was the next one? Brilliant armor is the same as the black starred version of instinctive counterattack. It's going to give you physical dampening, and then you want, what is it? Natural ignition is the element dampening one. Again, early on, especially if you're having trouble with survivability in this, and I feel like this build does, both of these are very strong. Outside of that, there's only one thing even worth looking at, and that's Sentry Chaos Res, which again, I don't feel like is something I'm worried about. We still don't have an effective way to see what our resistances on our sentries are. I would love to know what they are so I could tell if maybe I should put this in. But there's no way to know what they are to my knowledge, so I would ignore this, but I'm letting you know that it is an option. Okay, now we're moving to Blue Jewel, all the lower tier stuff. Now, there's going to be nothing really spectacular in blue at all. There's only two that are even worth looking at. Resource cost dampen and Sentry element resist. Neither of which I feel like is worth taking up a jewel. In green, now there's a lot of good stuff in green. You've got, right at the bottom here, Sentry attack speed, Sentry damage, and Sentry critical rate, or Sentry critical damage. I feel like critical rate is something really easy to get in here, but that crit damage is good. Obviously, damage is good, and attack speed can also be very strong, trying to get those sentries to full speed attack. Now, the red one, this is where something weird happened, and I tried to do some testing on this. The only two things on here worth having are the maximized damage stuff, as far as I'm concerned. There's some hit points and armor and whatever, but the maximized damage ones, and from what I can tell, with the testing I have done, there is maximized sentry damage and double maximized sentry damage, which makes you think that this one would only apply to double chance, and that this one would only apply to the others, and that's not the case. This applies to both, and that applies to both double and triple, and this is literally just twice the number. If you look at the max of this one, it's 5.9, and if you look at the max of this one, it's 11.9, which is double, basically, the other one. If you look at the minimum, it's up to 3, and then this one goes 6.4. It's double. It's just double. I don't know why you would ever use maximized over double maximized. If there's something I'm missing, and a Sentry player sees this and can explain it better, please do. Otherwise, this is the only thing worth getting on here, on red, is double maximized. Because once you get a decent amount of double hit chance, or double damage chance on your Sentry, which we're up to 33%, starting to get reasonable. Obviously, you're going to want to get as much damage as you can on there. It's very bizarre overall. In terms of your jewel score, there's obviously things you're going to want to get in here. Most of the Sentry stuff isn't too impressive. Sentry damage, you're going to get hit rate and stuff, all the standard stuff. Where was the one? There's one somewhere quite far down. At 550 points, Sentry takes 5% of damage taken. I feel like that's really good, again, because we are squishy. Letting them take the damage instead, I think, is really good. And all max Sentry energy is nice if you're using the version that I'm using that has all those energies, because they can stay on for that much longer. And then all Sentry energy effect is obviously going to help all those energies that we're using. Outside of that, not that I'm looking down too much farther, but there's obviously some good stuff down here. But good luck on getting down that far. Jewel score is hard to get. Okay, done with jewels. Let's move on. Okay, Runemaster levels. I'm still not super confident where I would put things, but for the moment, I am really just going into Sentry attack speed. I want to get my Sentries to a point where they are firing at full speed without outside interference, so that I can focus on doing other things. If they're firing at their maximum, anything I do to them, like channeling the enhanced thing so that it makes them stronger, will make that much bigger of a difference, and we don't have to worry about trying to get them to do more attack speed. So that's what I've currently gone into here, is attack speed, and I'm going to keep going to Sentry attack speed amp. Now, you could just go into the Sentry damage, and then the Sentry amp, and then skill level. This does require quite a few levels, and it's strong, and it's definitely not something bad. But I would like to fill in gaps here first before I go for straightforward damage things like this. The other things you can obviously go for if you're having trouble with your Sentry staying alive is these here. Sentry damage taken, or physical damage taken dampening, chaos damage taken dampening, element damage taken dampening. Again, there's hit points, obviously, if you feel like they're not living long enough. Armor, element resist. But then down here is where there's a few that I feel like are going to end up something that we are going to want. And I don't know which one of these it is, because you got to wait for them to scroll. But one of them is damage amp against enemies under lightning. Here it is. So the middle one, lightning status effect. It obviously damage amp, and we are always going to be shocking them. So this is very strong. That would be a contender for something that you points into. The other one is penetration that you can get, Sentry damage penetration. I feel like we've surpassed where we need damage penetration, but you could go in there. Outside of this, the only other thing that I always point out is the... Where is it? Is it here? That's shout skill. Enhanced skill. Enhanced skill cooldown recovery speed. Enhanced skill rune duration. Obviously, these are going to be good for your attack enhance. They're going to be good for your defense enhance. So these could be another good choice. Outside of that, I mean, the obvious stuff, if you need resistances or something, you can go with that. But there's not anything too mind-blowing in here. Again, I feel like the attack speed thing, solving that issue will really open up the build. Take it as you will. I'm very new. I mean, everyone is very new into this and haven't really pushed it and see what we're capable of with it. But that's where I would start, honestly, is the attacks. Okay, the Rune Hunter registry. For the most part, I don't see anyone taking anything other than move speed in this first one. Obviously, you could take resource cost dampening if you're really, really having resource cost issues, but it's easy to get element damage taken decrease. It's easy to get resource cost dampening. Getting plus 60 move speed is so big. It makes such a difference. I absolutely recommend getting this in the first one, especially as a build where we need to be moving very, very quickly so that we're not getting hit by stuff and we can let the sentries do their job. In the second one, I went into Tool Expert and I took plus 3 Sentry Link Rune level. I don't necessarily feel this is as important now because I have slowly but surely dropped the Sentry Link Runes, and in fact, I'm really only using the one, which is Precise Sentry. And that's something that I didn't really think about until I came back to look at this. And I don't necessarily feel like that is going to be something I'm going to stay with end game. Early on in the game, early on in your build, you're probably going to be using a lot of those Sentry things, especially if you're starting from a fresh file. This is definitely strong enough and something I would recommend. I'm not sure what I would bother going with after I drop this, but there is a lot of good stuff in here. You could go with movement skill, cooldown recovery. You could go with max count. Both of those are good. Or you could just go straight into the basics, going into stats, going into hit points, or chaos resistance or something. I wouldn't recommend those, but the ones like the hit point and barrier and the stats, they're all solid. Obviously, if you really want to hit certain things, this plus 5% unique gear drop chance, or legendary unique gear drop chance, is really good if you're trying to get a legend. If you have a unique that you want and you want to get the legendary version of it, it worked for me this season. I got my my trap necklace by using that. So that can definitely be one of the things. But the Sentry Link Rune level starting out, I think, is really, really strong. I don't think I would keep it now that I only have the one Link Rune level. You could go with things like maybe Projectile Link Rune level, because I think a lot of mine are Projectile at this point. Or... No, that's about it. Okay. What do we have left? I don't know, but Masteries? Yeah, probably Masteries. Let's go. Okay, Masteries. Masteries here aren't as overpowering as they are in some of the other builds, but let's go through them anyway. Obviously, we're going to be taking the rightmost one in most of these cases because it is the Sentry one. So the first one, Sentry damage, obviously. Sentry attack speed I have taken here again because I'm trying to cap that cast speed. Once I get cast speed sorted out, I probably won't stay with this. I would be more likely to go into Sentry critical rate, but only taking the minimum amount to move on because you don't need it. Again, that's why I went Sentry attack speed, but eventually I would like to... well, actually, no, never mind. I will probably keep it in Sentry attack speed, even though I'd like to get to the cap. In the bottom here, I went with Sentry damage amp. I really feel like it's the only good choice. You can go Sentry critical damage. Amp is going to very likely be more powerful than critical damage. And I don't think any other ones in there do anything. In armor, instead of going with the Sentry one, I'm going to go with the armor on myself. Armor, dodge, and barrier. Because our survivability is kind of weak, and we'd like to make sure we're not squishy. Now, temporarily, I have taken Sentry Element Resist because my resists were all out of whack. I definitely would not keep that. Enhanced Skill Rune Duration is going to be your baby as soon as you can get it. The other stuff, I don't really feel like it's worth it. In the bottom row, this first one is the best choice as far as I am concerned because it gives you and your sentries both dampening, which is really good. I will probably end up maxing this out at some point. The only other one was the Sentry Chaos Resist. Again, I saw someone take this, but I don't feel like Sentry Chaos Resist is honestly going to be worth keeping it because I don't know how much they need to stay alive, even though I've never had problems with just summoning new ones. In accessory, obviously we're going with our hit points as opposed to sentries. Again, survivability. I've gone Sentry damage, duh, because we want them to do damage. You could easily just go into move speed or into stats if you really needed them, but I feel like the damage is probably the best bet. And I went into Sentry Element Penetration. Once you are at Element Penetration cap, you could drop this in favor of Aura and Seal effect or Potion effect, depending on what you're going with, but I'd probably go Aura and Seal effect. In the Alchemy Mastery, we're going to be going pretty basic through here. Synthesis Acceleration up there, and then Healing and Mana Pots all the way down to both of their enhanced versions. and I went over to Enhanced Potion Effect because I sometimes use potions. It's very, very straightforward. Obviously, you want to make sure you're getting Absolute Perfection to remove Burn, Bleed, and Venom when you use a health pot, and Spring of Inspiration to keep your mana costs down. Okay, what do we got next? What's left, Statler? It looks like collection orbs and achievements. Okay, in the compendium, obviously the unique compendium, you're gonna get some stuff, but it's not directly related to your character. It's just drop rate stuff. Your rune compendium, same thing, just drop rate stuff. The three that matter in here are growth, slot, and grade. Slot is the easiest to get. You will get, for every 6 socketed rune you put in here, you're going to get stats. Obviously, you want to fill this up as quickly as you can. The first 10 are super easy to get, and I definitely recommend pushing to get them once you've got all the 6s you need on your rune board. Because you can get a bunch of stats and some recovery potion effect. And that recovery potion effect is going to be handy because we're actually using both potions quite a bit. Rune grade, again, once you've got everything legendary in your rune board, you should try to get these. It is a lot of damage as you go through it. Every 5th one, you're going to get damage amp, and in the way, you're going to get 8% damage. Growth is obviously very hard to get, but it is dual-pronged because it's going to help you and your sentries survive. But getting tier or level 45 runes in there is obviously going to be a bit of a struggle. Obviously, achievements, get the achievements so you can get your titles. Those are going to be important. Where's my list? Where's my list? Orbs. In your orbs, obviously, it should go without saying that you should be getting the Sentry damage one as soon as you can, and getting as many as you can in it. The others don't do anything, even though it is a lightning. Getting lightning orb does not increase the damage, so don't worry about that. When it comes to the other orbs, obviously you should be focusing on survival as much as you can. I would be trying to get like strength or dex as quickly as possible and getting those orbs up. Your resistances are a bit of a problem. Armor and dodge are going to be great. Hit points, trying to get those up as quickly as you can. And I don't think there's anything directly related in terms of achievements that you can get specifically that are Sentry related, but all of the achievements are obviously going to be very helpful. Okay, I'm going to go back through and make sure I haven't missed anything for this entire video, and then we're going to do the outro. But you're going to skip that part, and I'll see you guys in the outro. Okay, guys, we made it. We're at the end. So let's talk about the overall on this thing. It is a really fun build to play. I had a lot of fun playing it last season, and with some effort, I'm sure it could be a very, very strong build. The thing that is going to detract from it is the fact that we've got no consistent healing, and there's no way to really beef up the character in terms of survivability, and that's going to make it something that I am probably not going to upgrade the build beyond this video. Obviously, if you want to, talk shop, or if changes happen to the build itself in terms of more support, maybe I will come back to this. But for now, it's one of my builds that's just going to get shelved. It is a great fun build to play. It does insanely well in Red Moon Domain. It is ludicrous how well it does in Red Moon Domain. But again, the issues with it, with certain aspects of the build and the lack of survivability is going to make it something that in the end is going to keep it at maybe at best an A tier as opposed to an S tier build. So while I do love it and it's got a good spot in my heart, it's unlikely that I will update this video again. Again, if you've got questions about sentries, I will gladly talk sentries, but I won't be playing or updating this build in the foreseeable future. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you've got questions, please let me know in the comments or come find me on Twitch. Other than that, guys, I really hope you're enjoying this game, because I know I do. Yes, it's buggy, I understand. I know it's frustrating sometimes, but just relax. They're working on it. We know they're working on it. Have a great day, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.